Hey, welcome to my first video. Today I'm going to be sharing my February reading wrap up. Starting the month strong, I read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is a mystery gothic novel. It follows an unnamed heroine that marries a wealthy widower, and we follow the aftermath of their marriage in their new life in his estate, the Manderley. This is a timeless gothic tale. It is atmospheric. It is psychological. It is a study about complex characters talking about jealousy and identity. And if you're interested in something that's more slow paced, this will be the perfect read for you. And there's a plot twist at the end. The next book that I read is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This is an essay and social commentary. It is comprised of two essays/letters that James Baldwin writes to his nephew, Henry, and it is where he shares his personal experience and exploration of racial injustice in the United States. This was beautiful writing, but beautiful poetic, lyrical prose. It was written in the height of the civil rights movement, where James Baldwin pleads to the newer generation to use radical love that requires accountability and honesty in order to kind of overcome racial injustice between all races. And as heavy as this topic is, it was just a very digestible read, and you kind of feel sucked into his style of writing as he's talking about heavy subjects. I'll recommend this to anyone that's interested in starting James Baldwin, though I will recommend Giovanni's Room if you want to start there, because The Fire Next Time is pretty heavy, but I would still recommend that book. The next book that I read is, I have with me here, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I read this the second time, first time in high school, and this follows the life of these two migrant workers as they travel across California to look for a job during the Great Depression. And this book is quite bleak. It is very short, so it's just a short punch of sadness, and John Steinbeck's writing is really stunning too, so I really enjoyed the writing, but not so much the ending of the story itself. I enjoyed East of Eden by John Steinbeck much more, and luckily this is just under 100 pages, I think. So next I have with me as well, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This was published in 2020. It was super popular during that time. It still is. And actually, when I started reading this, I could not put this down. But basically, this is a literary fiction about these twins, the Venus twins. They are black girls from the deep south, and they grow up to live very separate lives. One of them passes as a white woman, the other one lives as a black woman. And this is a multi-generational tale about these twins and their daughters, and this is really character driven, so if you're into that, I would highly recommend this. The characters felt very modern, and the struggles that they were dealing with felt very grounded in reality. And this was inspired by Passing by Nella Larson, which was released in 1929, I believe, and that is more dated but still really relevant. It has the same premise about these two childhood friends that grow up living separate lives. One of them passes as a white woman, marries a white man, the other one lives as a black woman. And I highly recommend reading both, but this is just, if you want to start here, this is a really good read. The next book that I read is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Stetson. Written in 1892, this follows an unnamed woman that descends into psychosis during her rest cure. She experienced postnatal depression after her firstborn, and her doctor husband prescribed her the rest cure, where she's basically confined to the bedroom for a set amount of time, and she's forced to rest, eat, until she gets over her hump. This critiques the patriarchal oppression and the domestic confinement of women, as well as the dismissal of women's mental health. This was heavily inspired by the author's real-life experience with her postnatal depression after her firstborn, and she added embellishment to add to the horror aspect of this short story. It is such an interesting read. It has a lot of readability value as well. The ending is kind of left open for interpretation. I really enjoyed that. Okay, next book I read The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I might be saying her last name wrong. This is basically gift economy 101. She uses the natural world as an inspiration and encouragement. For example, she uses the serviceberry tree as an example to talk about the gift economy. The serviceberry tree produces a lot more than it needs, so it is able to feed birds, bees, and humans. And the author encourages us to use a community-based sharing model. For example, setting up a little farmer stand where people can come and go as they please and take the produce that they need without having to pay, or cycling through clothes and sharing or gifting and donating clothes in the community so that everyone is meeting their basic needs and that we're not over consuming. And this book is great for if you're interested in environmentalism as well as learning more about indigenous wisdom. This was a fun listen. I listened to this on audiobook. It is read by the author. She has a very nice, soft-spoken voice, and I really enjoyed learning about the Gift Economy 101. It is a very short book. I think it's under 100 pages, so I recommend. Okay, the last book that I read this month is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is the first book in the series, two-part series, and this can also be read as a standalone novel. And what is this genre? I think this is a kind of like a urban sci-fi fantasy. It is about these anti-heroes. So this is about two sociopaths that become supervillains, kind of tied together through greed and vengeance and low-key a little bit of bromance. Yeah, so each chapter kind of bounces from the present to the past, 10 years to the present, until you go down to the ultimate showdown at the end. And this is a fun read if you want something kind of light but still interesting, kind of like anti-heroes. And I'm currently on the second book, Vengeful. It's really good. There's new characters introduced in this one, and I am enjoying this a lot already. So I would recommend this if you're interested in learning in something that's not super like deep, but just kind of like stuff that happens between these two guys. Because I usually don't read stories like this, and it's been a nice break to kind of sandwich this between the heavier subject novels. I also forgot to mention that I read The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This is set during the Cypriot 1974 civil war, and it goes all the way to modern-day London. The story centers around this Greek-Turkish couple and their adolescent daughter. One of the central narrator is this fig tree, which is a super interesting aspect of this story because the fig tree acts as a witness and offers a non-human perspective on Cyprus and human conflict. Okay, and I also want to talk about the books I did not finish. I think that's important to add. This month, I also tried to read Project Hail Mary. I could not finish it. I got 30% in. I mean, I really enjoy the characters. I am rooting for them as well as the story. I just could not finish it because I'm not a huge sci-fi person, and it's always really hard for me to maintain my interest when it comes to science fiction novels. I much prefer to watch it on the big screen, so I will be watching that when it comes out in March. So maybe I'll try again, and I'm always on the hunt for my sci-fi book. Maybe it's just not Project Hail Mary, even though everyone loves it. And yeah, thanks for watching if you made it this far, and I will see you in the next video.